he's gonna be talking to us about Airbnb management. As we discussed yesterday, Airbnb has become the leading investment for foreigners here in the DR. So basically, they'll come, they will, buy a unit, and they will use that unit for short-term rentals, Airbnbs, basically. So how do you manage Airbnbs when you're investing in the country but you don't live here? Okay? What are some of the things that you have to keep in mind? All right? And so Abel is his company SmartINVEST, and that's what he does. Okay, he mostly works in the capital, with people who buy units in the capital. But he's going to talk to you. He's a very high-rated, Airbnb host. So he's going to tell you how you manage that when you do not live in the country. What are some of the things you want to keep in mind? And I have to say, you have to make sure, if you are an investor who is not living in the country, that the management company handling your short-term rental unit knows what they're doing, okay? Because if your rating is affected, that's going to affect, the occupancy rate, all right? So it's very important that you have someone who knows what they're doing at the helm. So without further ado, Abel, all yours.
Thank you. Since we started a bit late, I'll keep my comments brief, but I'll be available to answer any questions you may have after the presentation. So one of the first things we need to learn is what is needed in a short-term rental. Many of you already have experience managing Airbnbs, and one of the things that is very important is having good quality furniture. That will withstand the guest needs for years. Sometimes we encounter individual owners who want to furnish the units themselves, and one of the greatest concerns they have while furnishing the unit is keeping costs down. And they'll buy everything that looks pretty, the things that's cheapest, but what is the consequence of that? Within the year, you'll have things breaking down. You'll have to close your Airbnb because things need maintenance, things need to be replaced. And when you're working or fixing things, you're not renting your place. And the ideal scenario is, or the ideal situation is to get your unit available as many days as possible, never close down so that it could always be available for guests. We have an IKEA here in Santo Domingo, and many of the American investors recognize that brand. IKEA does have good quality things, but some of the things are not good quality. So there are other furniture stores that sell good quality furniture that will, again, withstand the continuous use of your unit for years to come. And one of the things that we encourage all our guests to do nowadays, and there's a lot of companies that offer it, is smart locks. It's very convenient for the guests to just enter a code that you give them, a code that you can change via an app through Wi-Fi every single time you have a guest, a code that you can give to the cleaning personnel so they can access the apartment, or even a code you can give to the handyman or the electrician so that he could have access to the apartment when it needs work. Because it's very challenging to be dealing with keys. Keys can be, we've had situations with apartments with keys. Guests take the keys. They just forget they have it in their pocket. And, unless you have a backup handy, then you have to wait for the apartment to be cleaned or to be serviced, and you have to track those keys down. And if you don't get the keys back, then what do you have to do? You have to change the locks, because then it will be a security issue. So those are the things you don't have to worry about with smart locks. One of the things that also is essential is having a good Wi-Fi connection. Most guests who come to the Airbnb often, they come for work. They come for business purposes. and they need to be connected to a VPN, or they need to do live streams or use Zoom, and they need a stable, strong, fast connection. Luckily, in this country, or specifically in this city, there are speeds of up to 300 megabits per second. I don't think any company requires that much speed, but it's good to know that you have it available, at least 50 megabits per second, or even 100 megabits per second, in case the apartment is being used simultaneously by a couple or 2 or 3 people who simultaneously need to connect. Another thing that is very important, even though with Airbnb it does have the ability to translate everything you put through the chat to the language of the individual who is chatting with you, but it's good to obviously be able to speak multiple languages. Sometimes you have guests who only speak Spanish or only speak English, and some Europeans who obviously speak their own respective language, but may understand a little bit of English as well. So having the ability to speak multiple language will allow you to better service your guests. Also, competent, reliable, trustworthy, and cleaning staff and maintenance crew. And that is one of the things that makes it a little bit more challenging for you to manage your own apartment remotely from another country. Being able to find competent individuals that are trustworthy, that you can trust, that are not going to take anything, or that are going to be upfront with you in regards to the cost of an item that needs to be replaced. Having on hand this crew of individuals who are going to support you is detrimental or very important.